The Galaxy S25 FE is finally here, and Samsung is talking about the usual upgrades, things like One UI 8 right out of the box, a bigger battery with faster charging, and an improved selfie camera. These updates are solid, but there's another change that hasn't gotten as much attention as it deserves: the display bezels. It may sound like a small thing at first, but it makes a big difference in how this phone looks and feels. For the first time in the Fan Edition lineup, the Galaxy S25 FE is starting to look almost as sleek as the more expensive Galaxy S25 models. The top and side bezels are now much slimmer, nearly matching the thin borders of the flagship phones. That means this phone isn't just about strong performance, it also looks more polished in the hand. Many people care just as much about design as they do about specs, and the thinner bezels give the S25 FE a premium look that older FE models never quite had. This improvement didn't happen in one step. Samsung has been working on reducing the bezels of the FE phones little by little. With the Galaxy S24 FE, we already saw a big improvement compared to the S23 FE. Now, with the S25 FE, Samsung has taken it further. Even the bottom bezel, which is usually the thickest part of the screen frame, has been trimmed down. It's still slightly thicker than the top and sides, but the gap is smaller than ever. This is now the second year in a row that Samsung has made thinner bezels a priority for its Fan Edition series. Of course, the bezels aren't yet perfectly even. There's still a slight difference at the bottom, but the direction is clear. Samsung is moving closer to giving FE buyers a display that feels just like a flagship model. And that's important for anyone who loves immersive visuals. Whether you're watching videos, scrolling through photos, or browsing the web, having thinner borders around the screen makes the experience feel more engaging. This change also affects how people see the S25 FE overall. In the past, Fan Edition phones often looked like the budget version of the Galaxy S lineup. They offered great value, but the design sometimes made them feel less premium. With slimmer bezels, the S25 FE now feels much closer to the flagship devices. Holding it doesn't feel like a downgrade anymore, it feels like part of the same family. Now, while the bezels have improved, the display itself is the same as last year's model. The S25 FE has a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED-to-X panel, with a smooth 120Hz refresh rate and rich, vibrant colors. It can also reach a peak brightness of 1900 nits, which is plenty bright for everyday use, whether you're indoors or standing under direct sunlight. The screen stays clear and readable, and watching content is enjoyable. That said, it's still not quite as bright as the non-FE Galaxy S25 models. Since 2024, Samsung's main Galaxy S lineup has offered up to 2600 nits of peak brightness. On paper, that's a noticeable jump compared to the FE's 1900 nits. But in reality, most people won't notice the difference unless they compare the two side by side. For daily use, the brightness on the S25 FE is more than enough. So, what does this all mean for buyers? Basically, Samsung is reshaping what the FE brand stands for. It's no longer only about getting flagship-level performance at a cheaper price. Now, the design itself is catching up too. The S25 FE is getting harder to tell apart from the premium Galaxy S models, and that's a big deal in a market where looks matter just as much as performance. Of course, Samsung still markets the S25 FE with big selling points like One UI 8, the upgraded battery and charging speeds, and the improved selfie camera. These are the features most buyers will hear about. But sometimes the small design upgrades make the biggest difference. A phone can have great specs, but if it looks outdated, people hesitate. By focusing on slimmer bezels, Samsung is tackling that problem directly. In the end, the Galaxy S25 FE might not reach the same brightness levels as the flagship models, but it makes up for it with a sleeker design and a more modern look. The thinner bezels make the display more immersive and improve how the phone feels overall. For the second year in a row, Samsung has worked on this detail, and it shows they're listening to what users want. So while the big updates like software, battery, and cameras are important, don't ignore the bezel changes. They may be subtle, but they help the S25 FE stand out in Samsung's lineup. For anyone who wants a stylish, premium-looking phone without paying flagship prices, the Galaxy S25 FE is shaping up to be one of the best choices.